I think one thing I've seen in motorcycle cases is the potential client will call, or a family member of a potential client who's been involved in a motor vehicle or a motorcycle collision. And one of the first things they'll say to me is, are we in trouble? Did we do something wrong, or can we even make a claim? And I'll say, why? And they'll say, because, my husband, my son, my cousin, he wasn't wearing a helmet. And I'd say, that does not stop your claim. I think that's kind of another insurance roadblock. We call it insurance law. They'll just say things that aren't actually necessarily true, and they'll say, well, we don't want to honor the claim because we know our insured wasn't wearing a helmet. Okay, there's actually no law in Ohio that requires seasoned motorcycle operators to wear helmets. And actually, not only is there no law requiring the use of a helmet, there's a law that says that it actually will not come into evidence in a civil case, the use of a non-helmet either. So I always try to alleviate people's concerns very early on that does not kill your case just because there was no helmet use. In a typical car wreck, if it's a rear ender, I typically don't have to worry about the conduct of my client. They were sitting at a stoplight, they were rear-ended, they did nothing wrong. In my motorcycle cases, if you're to use a baseball analogy, it's almost as if my clients start off with 2 strikes against them. I think the insurance company sees, okay, Willis Wilson Rizzi has a motorcycle case, and the first thing they're going to look at, was your guy was speeding on his motorcycle, or your guy was driving recklessly. I think there's a stereotype in terms of the driver's actions that is immediately in place with the insurance company. Is they see motorcycle and they think your client was speeding or he was driving recklessly. Outside of that, I think the other thing that happens, a difference between my motorcycle cases and a typical auto wreck case, is in the auto wreck case, when Jane Doe gets rear-ended, no one's really concerned or looking into Jane Doe's background. Jane Doe's coming back from the grocery store. In my motorcycle cases, I think that my clients oftentimes are unfairly pigeonholed into some motorcycle type stereotypes. Your guy's a reckless, Evel Knievel, wild driver. Your driver's a member of a Hells Angels motorcycle gang. And those are things that you have to combat right off the bat with the insurance company to get them moving away from those kind of roadblocks in terms of actually looking at the case for its merits. You've got the challenge of trying to convince the insurance company that this is a very serious matter. When you're rear-ended in a vehicle, hopefully, airbags go off, seatbelts on, and you can still have some very serious injuries. But when the smoke clears, you're still sitting in a vehicle, and maybe you've been protected by an airbag or a seatbelt. Versus many of my motorcycle cases where someone's on a motorcycle, most times when the smoke clears, they're not still on the motorcycle. And I think a lot of times what happens at the scene is very important to explain to the insurance company. We'll take time to talk about what happened after impact. Where was my client ejected at? Where did my client land? Where did my client hit before he landed or she landed? Where did they end up? How far from the bike or point of impact were they, to show how far they flew through the air? Were they knocked out of their shoes? Believe it or not, many times in my motorcycle cases, I have someone ejected from a motorcycle, and then we're looking at the scene, and they've been hit so hard that they've been launched out of their shoes. And so, the pictures, the documents, the body cam footage in a motorcycle case can really illuminate the serious nature of what happened out there on the roadway versus a typical rear-ender. Waiting, it only hurts your case. So many times people come to me and it's been 3 weeks since the collision. And that's not, to the normal person, that's not a far time from the collision, but to lawyers that 3 weeks feels like 3 years, right? Because evidence starts disappearing. We get involved and evidence preservation letters go out, and we make requests that go out that automatically sticks that evidence and makes sure that it's preserved no matter how much time goes by. We've got a request in for the evidence. And that mostly pertains in my field to footage. Footage is on a loop. Footage disappears. So if someone comes to me and sign up 2 weeks later and they say, there's a camera right there at that overpass on the highway, and I drive on that highway every day, and I know there is. And I said, there is a camera on that overpass, but it's gone because there's only 3 days. So, can't expect clients to call with it all the time within 3 days, but time matters in these situations. And again, I think that what separates us from my competitors is that they sign up your case and they move on to signing up the next 50 cases. I sign up your case and I'm figuring out what we need to do immediately to preserve that evidence, because preservation of evidence equals more dollars to your claim. Yeah, again, I think that even in the concept of a motorcycle collision, it's still kind of the same with my competitors. It's a volume game for them. If you bring your motorcycle case here, we're going to hit the ground running. I want to kind of be the lead dog in that Alaskan sled dog team, and going out and getting any footage. Is there body cam footage? Is there dash cam footage? Going to the scene, making sure that we have all the measurements. Sometimes if it's a highway involved motorcycle crash, there is Ohio Department of Transportation camera footage is available. That footage is only available for up to 72 hours. So there's a lot of early things that we do while my competitors have signed you up and are now chasing other motorcycle cases. I've signed you up and I'm working on your motorcycle case.